Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming to the meeting. This is an informal meeting. This is not a formal board meeting. We had to make a notice of it simply because it was the ability of the whole board being here. And I do expect at least one member to join after his meeting is over. The purpose of this meeting really is for you to the bridge report from the engineer and to ask questions. Especially with the number of people here, I would like to have you hold it to questions. This is not going to be a debate or a discussion, and we'd like everybody to get a chance to ask their questions. So we'll have Chris give a report and go through it. I'm then going to ask the boards to ask their questions, and then we're going to put it up to you. So with that, Chris, if you...
Chris Zangara, the Management Smith. We were retained by Grocery Township to do kind of a study evaluation.
Yeah. Derek?
You'll have to speak to that microphone.
Yeah.
You can address the board.
This is being recorded
because-
to play
yeah,
back
okay.
later, so you have to kind of stay near.
Okay, so we were retained to take a look at some existing evaluation regarding Parkway Bridge. It's up on the screen there. It's a pretty controversial bridge actually. But we took a little bit of a dive into existing information that was available. Took a look at some of the BS Bridge Safety Inspection Report records, to look at some of the recent ratings, and we pulled together a report where we kind of all of what we did, our findings, conclusions. We talked to Derek and others about the findings, and so tonight we were asked to provide a short presentation along with answering some questions based on the information that we were able to take a look at. So we developed a pretty short PowerPoint presentation, kind of gives a little bit of what we've done, the history of the bridge, and then some of the things. Cliff Elling is going to kind of run through the PowerPoint presentation for us.
Hi. Thank you for the opportunity to data from our report. The reference is the Grosse Ile Parkway Free Bridge. Okay. I'll get the next slide. Oh yeah, that's cool. I look at that. Oh yeah, okay. Thank you. Yep, that's fine. Okay. The purpose of the study we'd had was first to gather information about the bridge from whatever sources we could, then take the information we got and evaluate it, and then based on that provide a summary of what we found. Those are the three parts of the report. The first one was information gathering. We have about sources of information we was able to find. The first was
Cliff, can you up just...
oh sure. First
Is that green light on in
sure
front of
is,
you?
yeah, right there. Sorry, speak. The first source of information was of information requests, primarily from Wayne County. They will to us in getting information back to us about the bridge. They couldn't plans of the bridge, but we got everything else except the plans that we needed to look at. Also, Grosse Ile Township was able to provide us the current bridge safety inspection reports. I don't know if Wayne County had them, but we get them from Derek. Wayne County also had some useful information they provide for us. Websites. There's a few we had. I won't go to it in detail. There's a lot of information on the web about this bridge. We're able to get information that are published news stories. Also, AASHTO and Michigan DOT have bridge publications specific to inspection of bridges, which we evaluated from and applied to this bridge. And also, Chris and I, in August 14th, took a short walkthrough of the bridge from the sidewalk level and from the banks to see what was actually there. Evaluation of the findings, the Grill Seal Bridge we discovered was constructed in 1873 as a single track rail bridge. It took trains across to the island, and then freight was ferried from the island into Canada through boats. The bridge that was there, go back one, if you could. That one is a 5 fixed spans and a 1 movable swing span. It was a post truss, and it has all been replaced. In 1931, Wayne County converted the bridge to a vehicular and pedestrian bridge, and in doing that, they added a pier in between the existing piers, such that it became a 10 fixed spans with 1 movable span. That's what I see now. This is a picture we got, again, Wayne County Freedom of Information Act, and it shows a typical pier. Is the existing, is the old 1837 rail bridge. It shows timber cribbing, limestone blocks, and then the rail bridge. On the left is the rehabilitation that was constructed by Wayne County in 1929 to 31. The same timber cribbing, and they cast a concrete on top of the timber cribbing, constructed on top of that the 2 girder fixed spans across the waterway. This is a picture of the piers they put in between the piers. These are piers 1, 3, 5, 7, and 11, which are brand new piers in 1930 from the limestone to the top with no timber cribbing. This is a picture of the bridge as it looks today. We've discovered there was rehabilitation work performed on the bridge. We found documentation in 1958, 2007, 2019, and 2020. The bridge had some kind of rehabilitation work performed on it. And the bridge is posted for a 40, 65, 80. That is, a 1-unit truck is 40, a 65, and a 3-unit truck is 80. So it's been load rated and posted. The bridge substructure is the stuff that is this concrete thing and below the water to the top of the river bed. Inspection cycle of 24 months. Every 24 months they need to do dive inspection of the substructure. The bridge substructure rated in the current inspection report is rated as a 5, fair condition. The bridge superstructure is the stuff that's above the piers, and it's green. It's on a schedule of a routine inspection on a 12-month cycle, and the condition of the green superstructure steel and the deck and the rail rated as a 4, poor condition.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir, but just so everybody knows, are these current ratings?
Yes, sir.
Sub, super?
Yes, they're current ratings. Yes. Yep.
I'll make sure that's clear.
Yeah, yes. Yep. Okay. What's the next one? On a summary. After we gather the information, evaluate, can make a summary report, and a summary of our summary is the existing substructure, the stuff that's in the water. The repair work allows the bridge to satisfy present service conditions. Also, the information obtained would suggest that portions of the bridge substructure are presently in need of repair, and this work is necessary in order to consider extending the useful life of the bridge for 30 years, which is a question asked us in the onset of this. For the bridge, sir, in a summary, the existing bridge superstructure, the green steel part, the repair work to date, combined with a rigorous and comprehensive program, continuous inspection, maintenance, repair, and strengthening, may bridge superstructure to continue to satisfy the present service conditions and provide years of additional service. And that's a quick synopsis of our report, and Chris and I'd be happy to answer witness from the board or the public.
And let the board ask their questions first, and if I'm going to go with the first one, because a lot of what we were shooting for was to get an idea of how long bridge could last. And I know I asked you, Chris, as you were doing this, and we saw the preliminary, and it was more the conclusion in there, where it won't last 30 years if they don't. And I said, well, I can't, it'll last. And you told me because of, I think, a question for a lot of people, that's what they would like, is you tell me it's going to be good for 15 years or 20 years. And you mentioned to me that that's very hard to do because there's so many things that are fluid in this. The type of winter you have year to year, the water, so many things play into it that change that you did it the way you did it, which is, we were fine with, but I want to make sure if you could explain that so that the people all understand.
Hi.
You gotta speak into this.
It's a very loaded question. You can't. It's not one with a simple answer, unfortunately. You just tag something with a life expectancy, especially a bridge of that nature. There are a lot of factors that influence the life of any structure. For example, some of the things you pointed out, maintenance is a big one. The whole idea of the bridge inspection program in the United States, and specifically here in Michigan, is to gather information on any and all of these structures that meet a 20-foot greater over time. And it's to specifically take that and watch the deterioration levels, make sure that they're not getting to a point where something significant's going to happen. In this particular case, we were able to find very easily current BSIRs, Bridge Inspection Reports, which is a standard form inspection report that the entire state of Michigan uses. So that was being used. It was being filled out properly. Several areas of concern throughout the entire report. Some areas were listed condition, 7 or greater. Some were at 4, the high end of poor condition. So, but just like anything, a car, yourself, computers, everything, maintenance. If you try to do something, you add a patch to your computer, I think it's going to last for more than these days a week. There's something wrong. So you got to be realistic about the repair. They did a significant repair. It improved the condition of the bridge. They did 2 significant repairs, actually. 2. And it improved the condition of the bridge. You can't just stop there. You've got to keep going. So, not an easy answer. It's not one that, you can't just snap your fingers and say, yep, they're going to be 5 years. What they did improve the existing condition, the useful life of the bridge. To make it, the whole point of this is to make these bridges safer and to reduce the cost involved in replacement. Try to extend the lives out as long as we can. So,
Thank you.
Hopefully
Yeah,
that
I
answers
thought that important that we.
Which way you want to go? It's up to you.
Yeah,
Sir, either one. I wanted to get a little more depth, more pinpoint. For your experience as being an engineer, your expertise, do you feel what you saw in that Wayne County did they do it correctly or to the best practices that engineers would look at today and say, that is how to fix that problem? Agree that they did it correctly?
Most recent repairs were done at the last
2021.
21. They did 2 repairs. One was the substructure where they sheeted underwater each of the piers. 1, 3, 5, 7, and 11. They sheeted them, 8, 9, and 10. They sheeted them and grouted them. Yes, that's satisfying dealing with that issue. The same work was done in 1958 on piers 8, 9, and 10 only. They sheeted the things, they grouted them. In 1958, rolled rock anchors into the limestone, which I think is a good idea, but they didn't do that, I believe, in the substructure repairs in 2020. Yes, that's a factory way of dealing with that type of problem of losing material and having to settle. For the superstructure repair work, yes, I believe it was shut down because the floor beams were transverse beam members had problems, and they inspected everything they saw that was unsatisfactory. Some stringers and other members. There's more work to do on the on repair. They got the most critical stuff to get the thing open.
Okay,
I would add to that the information he's telling you is all written in these reports. We're not making any of this up.
oh, no,
This is stuff that
I
was
read it, I understand.
provided. Okay,
There's certain things that I'm not an engineer, and there's certain things that I wanted to make sure of. And when you say satisfactory, I'm not trying to put you in a corner whatsoever. I'm just trying to say 60 years ago, they repaired exactly, the county repaired it now. When you say satisfactory, meaning these are the best practices, or was there a better way to do it?
If a member has failed and it's a primary load from vehicles, and then replace it, and that's what they did. Even through our field walkthrough, we've looked through the grading and seen and things that needed to be replaced. They weren't of a critical nature, and they're on the list to do next time, but the primary load carrying members, they replaced them. I would take no exception to what I saw in reports. I would have, if there's more money, I would have a lot more. I would have painted the entire structure rather than just painted the areas that have been replaced. Wayne County has a ton of bridges. This is one of theirs, and they're trying as they can with the money they have. But it's a steel bridge, and it does need painting.
A follow-up, sir, to that then. We know that, correct me if I'm wrong, there's 5 piers that haven't been touched yet. Wayne County 8 that, and maybe somebody on this board knows, but I don't. There's no plan to fix piers as of right now.
Hey, Joe, yeah, and it was actually when I talked about at our board meeting, the work they were going to do, those 5 piers are going to be started on next year.
But there's no plan yet to do it. Is that correct? Is there an actual plan? Did they put everything out? There's no plan.
They have as much as they can at this time.
Okay, well,
Yes.
okay, that's fine. I don't want to get into semantics or what they're doing. There's 5 piers that haven't been done yet. In your professional people here that are concerned about the school buses, we have people here that are concerned about themselves. I'm concerned about everybody that goes over that bridge. Would you give me an idea that that bridge is safe, and how long will it be safe, or should it be safe, that let's just say, they'll start next year, maybe in 24, I heard, whatever they do. Do you, that bridge is safe right now as is with those 5 piers not fixed? That's huge on Grosse Ile.
Okay.
They need some type of answer on that.
We can only conclude what we read from the reports. So based on the reports tell us a couple things, that they're recent, they're current, so they've reduced, in the case of structure, they've reduced the frequency of the inspection from 24 months to 12 months or 6 months?
12 months.
Okay.
For the
I thought I saw 6 even in there on one.
Yeah, thanks.
for the superstructure, routine inspections are 12 months.
12 months?
may
Okay.
be
So the point is they've reduced the cycle from the typical months, which is the maximum allowed. They've reduced that, so that's saying they're keeping close watch on it. They've also, somebody's done a load rating of the bridge, so it's got a reduced capacity, a live load is what we call it. And so they did not close the bridge. these are certified qualified bridge inspectors that are hired by Wayne County. It's not Wayne County doing it. These are certified bridge inspectors, Cliff and I are, that have made these assessments, stated it in their report, and kept that bridge open. So, to the best of our knowledge and our understanding, that bridge is safe for use based on the information provided in those reports.
So what you reviewed, based on your professional opinion as bridge engineers, that it's safe for now.
Based on the information in the report.
Thus, they better fix 5 years.
Well, we would say that they've identified areas that need to be addressed, and that information is provided back to the county bridge owner, and then the bridge owner has a responsibility to act on it, and typically they do as funds are available.
The 5 piers you mentioned, that you're talking about piers 1, 3, 5, 7, and 11, the 1931 piers that were put in between. The structure inspection of those piers noted that there was deterioration on the piers. It certainly recommend that that gets repaired. I couldn't say for sure, looking at the details we had, piers were plain concrete or reinforced, but regardless, if there's spalls to steel, spalls in this thing, that should be repaired. The longer you wait, the deterioration you get. So
I understand all that, and again, we're not engineers, and I don't know, there might be engineers in the audience, and they get it better than me. So the answer, at this point, that bridge is safe. Say the answer is yes. I'm not trying, this isn't court, and I'm not trying to.
No, yeah,
I mean,
yes.
just information, that's all we can, we didn't inspect the bridge, we just did a cursory walkthrough.
There is yes.
Yeah, so we believe based on the information it is, they would have closed it.
Yeah.
Again, this isn't Wayne County, these are bridge
Oh, I understand,
inspectors who are
there's from the
certified.
state, they're federal, I get it, they're
Well,
one of the
they're
other,
consultants in the state of Michigan.
yeah, from the state, that's fine.
One thing that is turning a little bit to me, just looking at the data, is it's got a load posting. There's a restricted, someone has looked at the bridge and analyzed it and said, hey, this isn't strong enough right now to take a full legal load, and it's going to be reduced. And it's good to know.
I'm good, sir.
Sure, a follow-up on Joe's question. I know this isn't a report, but just to help me, mention painting is something you would have done more if there was more resources. What are some of the other critical things that you suggest looking out for as more resources become available?
There's repair recommendations, which I think we gave to Derek about what in order, but we're not doing it. It's Wayne County, but some things that I'm going from memory on the repair stuff, but certainly the piers 1, 3, 5, and the deterioration on those should be repaired and be sealed so that it doesn't have any more. The deterioration is slowed down. That's another thing. On the steel, some of the secondary bracing. That is, when the bridge primarily takes loads from vehicles down on the members. It also takes load from wind blowing on it, and when the wind blows, it's taken through a lateral system underneath. That lateral system is in disrepair, as was noted in the bridge inspection report. And I would suggest that the lateral connections for the wind load and the main members should all be repaired, replaced, whatever it takes to get that system back. It's a secondary, it's not a critical member, it's a secondary thing, but I think it's something that needs to be done. The bridge will stay a 4 until it doesn't have this massive rust and spalling as you see out there. Stay a 4 until it gets all the painting done. It's a 5. One caveat I might want to say is there's a movable span bridge, which is a very complicated element of this structure. Actually, it actually functions. We didn't get a ton of data on the condition of the movable span, and so we know that the truss itself, the steel truss, we know the condition of those, but the actual mechanical, electrical stuff, it could need to be replaced. It could require servicing, periodic maintenance. We don't know. It's maybe part of a inspection Wayne County needs to do in the future. Not only just look at the spans, but also the swing span, and make sure that is going to function also.
One more concern a lot of folks have with the extended closure really hurt a lot of us, and I don't know how much information you can give me on this, but what Wayne County is telling us, feel like they can do the repairs that they need to without extended closures. Is that something that seems accurate to you, or that's something I'm curious about?
Well, and the future repairs. Just looking at just a walk through the bridge, the sidewalks, railing, the grading looks really good, and the safety inspection reports say the same thing. What's this underneath? You know, the green steel, also the overhead truss stuff. That's hard to say. I think that it's always faster to do work when you close the bridge. Particular structure, I think that'd be a last resort, you know, and it may be necessary extra money to have a one-way traffic, whatever they need to keep this bridge in service. Work's being done. The work down below may not be as impactful as the grading, which it looks like it's in good condition. So I would say qualified, yes. Yeah, you don't need to shut the bridge down to do it for the steel or for the substructure.
Just to repeat back what you said, because sometimes I have trouble understanding. What you're saying is because the superstructure looks pretty good, that part would be to be closed down if there were extended repairs. The substructure, sorry, I'm not speaking. What I'm trying to say is because you see the superstructure looking in good condition, that would be the part that would shut down for an extended period of time.
Well, there's the superstructure, the green steel, plus the grading and the sidewalk and the railing, everything above the concrete.
Mm-hmm.
The green steel needs some work. You know, the lateral system, some of the rust gusset plates need to be replaced, repainted, maintained. I believe that work could be done underneath the deck without a closure of traffic.
Okay, now I get you.
The sidewalk superstructure portion that has the sidewalk grading, it looks good.
Gotcha. Now I understand. So the what needs to be done is mostly underneath.
Underneath, yeah.
So that's why it could possibly be done without extension.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Thank you. That's
Yeah, and that is what Wayne County has told us. They're any shutdowns, you know, would be like our 9 to 3, maybe depending on it, maybe a day or two, but nothing like what was previously.
Yeah. So, for Wayne County, another bridge in their large area of concern, but it's an important bridge to Grosse Ile. It's a lifeline for us. So, if some of our questions seem a little pointed, I promise you, it's not directed at you guys. We appreciate you being and putting in the work to help us provide some answers. So, Detroit Channel 7 News previously did a report in teen that alleged the Parkway Bridge reports had been folded in some place, or some cases even skipped. You guys probably saw that source media searches. I know you mentioned that the current inspections were completed by contractors. So given that fact, do you feel confident that the inspections are reliable and accurate in your review of?
Yes, looking at the information, particularly Detroit, WX seemed like they did a very thorough look into some of this information, and they have a lot of historical entries, rather informative on what happened. And I read about that, unfortunately, with an inspector who wasn't doing what he's supposed to do, no, that's not a situation we have now. If that, Chris and I both are what you describe as a qualified team. We inspect bridges. We don't want to lose our qualification by doing something crazy. The folks who inspected this bridge are in the same boat. They're professional, qualified leaders. Never, with the risk of their career, falsify such a thing. It's not really.
Their consultant, we don't know this person. Personally, I don't believe Cliff does.
He wasn't a
see-
qualified team
we-
leader. And,
Yep, so, but he's going rigorous inspection training and so on and so forth that we have to do.
the current inspection, this program of the team leaders thing, Michigan DOT is instituted probably in the last, 7 years, 10 years, to make sure that the people looking at the bridge are to do so, and the stuff they provide to the owner of the bridge is actual and realistic and is not copied from the previous year, for example.
Okay, so they're high fidelity reports. So in the case underwater inspections for the support piers, it's my understanding they use like a visual and tactile inspection techniques, which I think is a complex thing. Divers went underwater, touched it, and looked at it. Would you recommend any kind of advanced techniques like ground sonar or any other systems to inspect them that us a deeper understanding of their condition?
I think that, in my own opinion, I think we do a little bit other stuff. We hire a contractor to do it for us, and as engineers, to screen as they go, and they have measuring devices, thickness measurements, etc. I believe the current inspection prepared by the qualified consultant has mentioned, I think it was, they would recommend a survey every 6 months of the fixed piers. Okay, that survey would indicate if something's moving or going down, and is an inexpensive way and maybe more direct than looking underwater at something you can't see as before. It's just looking at the. I know the bridge has a little bit of a up and across, and monitoring that over a period of time may be them. I think it's a good practice, a good way of looking for things, finding something.
And I don't know if they have or not, but a bathymetric survey of the area around it and sonar scanning of the pier, those would all be helpful in monitoring and watching over time any deterioration because I believe the major revision was voids found and which is why they grouted. Yeah. So
The piers, the original 1873 piers, 2, 4, 6, and then 8, 9, 10, they're on timber cribbing. And,
Right.
In 1958, they actually did a through into that and found out that there was some degree of blue clay and ash down there, and that's not something you want to have underneath your cribbing, but that's in 1973. That has since been sheeted in and grouted. There should be no loss of material, exfiltration of material, but nevertheless, in practice, I think it might be good practice because it's so old, just because of its age, to do a survey monitoring of these piers, establish a benchmark, and then come back in 6 months and see if anything's moved for any reason. If it's moved, then that's when you want to jump in with advanced techniques.
So the recommendation would be to monitor the piers for any change in their orientation, and then a bathymetric survey would be a good recommendation as well to the whole area. Is that the okay? Mm-hmm.
The river is digging a place. The bathymetric will pick it up from year to year. So that may,
Oh, okay. And I believe the current inspection schedule is 24 months for the substructure, months for the superstructure. Is there a more advanced, I believe under the National Bridge Inspection Guidelines, they could move that up. They could make it a daily inspection if they wanted to. Wouldn't be reasonable, but possible. Okay, is there a inspection schedule you feel comfortable recommending to us? Obviously you're not making a recommendation.
the best thing that Chris and I could say is what the consultant has recommended, we would agree with it. For sure, typically it's 60 months. This is 24. It's like, ooh, okay. For typical superstructure, it's 24. Now it's 12 with pumping. So I think they're right on it, you know, and we would tend to say they know more about the weed, and I take no exception to what they said. You know,
And then, you know, we've got a superstructure rated as poor, a substructure rated as fair. I don't even know if you got this, but is there a lot of bridges in Michigan or in the area you're serving that are rated in fair and poor? Are we kind of an exception? Are we doing better than average? I realize it's kind of a broad question, but
that's you know,
I was just gonna say, I don't know all the current statistics. I think they're pretty easily found, but I don't know them off the top of my head. We see a lot of bridges. It's not just Groseal. Throughout, I mean, the state has a problem. They've identified that there's a funding issue throughout the state, and there's bridges that, I mean, in certain counties they're closing them, right, for lack of funding to either do some rehabilitation or replacement work. So it's not uncommon. I just don't know the numbers.
one thing
All
I
right,
like about Michigan is, at least in parts of Wayne County, the streets are in a grid. So if it's out of service, you just go a mile out of your way and there you go, you know. So you can have a bridge that, you know, a 3, you know, and it's closed and it's an income. In the case of the Groseal, it's a different story. You've got
I see what you mean.
one bridge. So the fact that it's poor or fair, that's a lot more of a talk than if you get a bridge that's got a runaround that's less than a mile, you know. So I understand exactly your concern. A bridge that's for a pair over here and access around is a different animal than a bridge that is a critical life to Groseal, you know.
Okay, that concludes my questions. Thank you.
Carl, you got anything?
Yeah, two matters. Speak in a different language than many of us do. So when I see a 7, I don't know exactly what that means. I know it tells me to stay off of it. You've told me and us that we have 3s and 4s, and certainly the trend down is unfavorable to everybody that lives here and drives across the bridge. But when a bridge from a 5 to a 4, from a fair to poor to a, what does that mean in terms of the risk for the bridge to face on Minneapolis, or a bridge that may drop from a 3 to 2? What do those various levels mean to the people going across the bridge? Layman's terms.
We didn't include a particular slide in this presentation because it's pretty, I don't know what the word is, detailed, you know, but in engineers with the reports, it's a rating system from 0 to 9, where brand new, 0 is failed, like the bridge in Minneapolis. There's a poor category is from 0 to 3. It's a poor condition. Fair condition goes 5 and 4, possibly 6, and good condition is 7, 8, 9. Ideally, the bridge should be 6 or better. You know, it is a way of maintaining something, like to maintain my car, to have, you know, not be at the, change the oil when it needs to be changed. Don't wait until it's double the mileage, you know.
I think to answer the question more directly, if a rating is dry, it's a signal to the bridge owner something is happening. There's deterioration detected. It sounds obvious, and it is. That was the whole point of the whole inspection program, is to identify these things before something were to happen. So if it does drop from a 5 to a, that's saying there's a elevated deterioration condition on some element of the bridge or something that caught the inspector's attention, and it was significant enough for a document it. And then that should throw up signals to a bridge owner. your rating dropped, maybe we should take a look at this. So, I mean, just in basic,
For this particular bridge, the work that was done in 2020 to the substructure, the sheeting, the piers, that took the bridge from a 4 to a 5, which is a lot of, $9 million is a lot of money to pay for that, but that took it up one notch. This bridge itself is rated poor condition or 5 fair condition. And as far as the traveling public, it's not ideal, but I don't see it as a safety concern. If the bridge a 1 imminent failure, I'd be concerned about going across it. If it's at, I wouldn't think that'd be appropriate for this type of bridge here. But a 3 isn't, but a 4 and a 5, that's not ideal, but it's okay.
Using analogy with an automobile, when I buy Michelin tire, expect 50, 60,000 miles out of them. I can go out and look at that tire when it's 80,000 miles and determine the wear and tear on it. I can look at it when it's at 50,000 miles and take out that penny, and if it touches Lincoln's head, it's time for Carl to replace the tires. Do you see anything like that where we're at that right now? Anything at all in any of your study or any of your work?
that's what the report's saying. It's exactly that. I mean, the fact that the superstructure's at a 4, and then they've listed the reasons why they've rated it, identifying,
Right.
I think it was some connection issues, maybe floor beams, it was lateral bracing.
Kits that were broken.
Yeah,
and
so
some
the
other
tires
things.
are wearing, it's
The-
starting to,
the-
you need to start
the-
thinking about,
The difference in the tire analogy is that once you get completely bald with tire, there's bridges that are older than this in Michigan that have carefully repaired, detailed, etc. They're still in service. I remember one, it's the US 31 bridge in Minnesota, double leaf bascule of the Minnesota River. It's a very old riveted truss bridge. It's got very tender loving care on it, on the steel repairs and the rivets and the caulking, and still in service. And it's a critical bridge to those folks, and it's may never be replaced. It's continuously being maintained, And personally, I think if you get a bridge in a condition of 6 or better, it'll go, A 4 condition, it needs work to to make it last, and then replacing the thing because it's getting too much deterioration. It's a matter of fixing it and keeping it going, It eventually may need to be replaced because of the fact that it's too narrow, or may need to take larger vehicles across it. But proper maintenance, inspection, repairs, it'll last and last and last.
I look at that, I look at the bridge, and the load limits have been reduced, as you indicated. But I'm also looking at a bridge that has hundreds of openings over the year for pleasure craft, and used to be some commercial craft. I see a bridge that has gates only on the west end that extend far the Elizabeth Park Trenton side, that allow traffic to back up on the bridge, and with vehicles that are idling, the residents that is from that idling, and I've read through the report twice, but the is something that I understand engineers look at and say that can cause damage to a bridge as well. We also salt. We all have a speed limit suggested on it versus what should be. So I'm looking at those kinds of things. If we were to, the salt, reduce, because 90% of the salt, it seems to me, a chemist or an engineer, but when I look at the grid that is there, probably 95% of the salt falls down either river or unfortunately in some of the cross members underneath. Now, pigeon dirt, the salt in moisture, it's a recipe for an awful lot of rust, and rust is the oxidation. If the gates, particularly on the west side, back closer to where Detroit Elizabeth Park is currently and remove the residents, we read the speed limit and we eliminate salt, those are things that me as perhaps helping in a very minimal way in cost to extend the life of the bridge. What are your thoughts on that?
I 100% agree. But particularly with the salt stuff. The salt is what's a lot of the need for painting and deterioration you see from the chest height down. It gets on the lateral system below and just continues to deteriorate the steel. I'm not 100% on the residents, but I know that I mentioned before about the lateral system. I would definitely get that replaced. I don't think it's a residence issue, but it couldn't hurt to get those rusty things replaced. But yeah, I'm 100%. I worked on the Blue Water Bridge 1 a while back. It's a very old structure in Port Huron. I think it has portions of it open grid, but they use sand up there. They don't want to salt that thing because the more they get it painted, that's fortunately a lot of the work's paid for. So they have revenue stream to do maintenance, but they still don't want to put an open grid steel bridge, especially with stuff below the deck, because it just maintenance. So yeah, I agree 100%. There's things you can do. This is a particularly sensitive bridge. It's an open grid. It's got a movable span. All those things are like, wow, a lot of work, attention, and care needs to be taken. And I think salt is not a open grid deck with steel isn't a good combination. Yeah.
Can I follow up on one of Carl's? Sure. Also to add, I wanted to talk to police chief about this, contact Wayne County, but I'll ask you first. So, I mean, if you can recommend this would be great. But the speed limit is still 35 on that bridge, and I know that trucks going over there, the pressure on the steel grate rises exponentially when they break. And it used to be, and Carl, they didn't put the sign back up. I went out there to make sure that we still had an engineer suggested speed. Now, how many times you pass something, it's my fault. I didn't catch it. You know what I mean? I didn't catch that they didn't put it back. So there is no engineer suggested speed at 25, but I'm going to ask the chief to see if we can petition Wayne County at a 25 mile an hour speed limit. Because I know we have, different haulers, from the sewage treatment plant, Derek, to, private contractors with stone or dirt or whatever. But I do know the braking causes so much pressure on trading. Can I use you as a recommend to say that bringing that speed limit down will also help? What Carl brings up some things, and we could just add to that. Would you agree with that?
Braking and traction forces are considered during bridge design of help at lower speeds.
Yeah, we're presently rehabbing a bridge in Centerville. It's a 3-span timber covered bridge, and the bridge can take more than it's posted for, but they've put a override protector on the thing. It's 7 foot, so they can't get large vehicles across, and it's got a 3-ton limit, even though it can take processing that. And they've done whatever they could to get the large vehicles to go someplace else, and they're going across to go to slow speed with I forget the speed limit, maybe 5 or 10 miles an hour. But yes, anything you can do to reduce the speed of the vehicles would be helpful to.
I could say, and I don't want to fudge this, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, that the bridge engineers would recommend that it would help if we went from 35 to what engineer suggested, because some people, they know when that sign's yellow, it means nothing. Yellow and black, nothing. Black and white are the only thing in Michigan that's enforceable. So,
be perfectly legitimate.
could I use that?
Let's look at this in a different vein then. Would you recommend 20 mile on that, or 25, or
Yeah,
another
I
number?
just thought 25 would be, around 10, it'd be reasonable for the people, reasonable for the, just like they did, on the toll bridge when it was down.
Right.
Toll bridge went over at a 15 mile an hour speed limit. How they enforced that was the truck in front of you driving the truck did 15, so choice. And that's how trucks were brought over. They actually had a front, and you had to follow that vehicle, and there was no choice. I mean, you were doing 15.
Speed limit thing. Chris and I are bridge engineers, and we have traffic engineers that work with us, but we don't know what to do about it sign. We think it's a great idea to reduce it to as low as you can get, but we don't know how to, as bridge.
Well, we can do that. If I can just use you as a recommendation to say the bridges do recommend that it's safer for
Yes.
the bridge and lasting.
I would-
No?
I would say,
Well, no, not no, but I mean, I'd like to, only reducing the speed, again,
Is
would
good,
help.
is
To
good.
what level, not sure. We'd
Yeah,
have to put a little.
But 35 to 25 would be,
That seems
that'd
reasonable.
be fine.
That would be
Because
reasonable.
it's
Yeah.
a functioning obstacle too, so
I-
it's pretty narrow, so
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't seem
I think what you're saying, the slow, the more, the more it helps the bridge. You bring it down to 5 miles better than 10.
yes,
10's better than 15, et cetera, et cetera. You also have to get traffic across the bridge and monitor that. And I had a lot of talk right before that bridge opened about the speed. And as you say, there's nothing. It used to be.
wasn't posted after it, and I don't want to did ask to contact Wayne County. It kind of fell through, and so now I went to see.
I'm making
By-
notes.
by all
to-
means, yeah, we could, yeah.
Oh, do you want to? Okay,
I'm
Well, by all means.
Thank
got that down there. I'll be
then I
glad to
won't
do
talk to
that.
Doug. Okay, no, that,
One other question, if I may, Jim. We've talked about salt. Is there an alternative for a steel structure? Instead of using salt, use sand at the Blue Water Bridge. Recognizing we've got the grading there, some other chemical that's acceptable to the even fish and wildlife that you can put on that span that will go ahead and allow for a reaction to melt the snow and ice that goes above and beyond just dumping sand or
Yeah.
something like that. Are you aware of any kind of like could be laid on that?
I've heard of beet juice being used, but I'm not sure it works at all temperatures. Sure, it's okay with the fish, I don't know, yeah, I don't know.
Just have to take beets.
Well, and Carl, to that end, I have down here to talk to them about an alternative to salt.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think that's right on the nose. Don't
answers my
don't use
question.
salt,
Thank you.
use anything except salt, yeah.
They have to have whatever it is just for this bridge. It's the economic, sending out a special crew that is carrying it, but your bridge, and you're gonna pay for using salt, so, maybe there's, a good alternative that can be.
Cliff, thank you.
Okay. If we're done with the board, I'd like to open it up to the public. If you just raise your hand. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask. Yes? And stand up, if you would, stand up. If you could just come to if you would come to the front and just ask them your question, because I would hope that we get it on
I
the
understand.
recording.
My name's Molly Muskelly. This isn't a question for these gentlemen, I don't think, but who's enforcing the weight limit on the bridge? This summer, I saw some massive boulders and things like that coming over. And, I know a Waymaster, but I also, they look pretty heavy.
King County is the Waymaster. And they have for all their bridges, they have 2 Waymasters. So getting them here when that load goes over, it's kind of a flip of a coin unless we were given some heads up. Something, about the only time we're given a heads up is when there's something where they have to actually close the bridge as they bring that truck over. If it can get through on one, then it's just a matter of whether it's our turn to have the Waymaster. Am I correct?
I've never even seen the Waymaster. Lived
well,
here for 8 years, I've never seen
well, they don't, it's not like they come and spend the whole day. They, okay, I don't know, whatever their schedule is, so they come, parked. They could be parked on the side, our side, and they're here for a short duration and then, so,
That's an accurate statement. I mean, Waymaster is the jurisdictional authority that, or has the jurisdictional authority to enforce restrictions. In communities where you're a city, your police department can get certified and have portable scales that they can, weigh the vehicles, but, you know, those roads in Groseal Township are not ours. The Waymaster is the authority with regards to those and enforcing them. And Joe, I don't know, maybe you can speak a little bit more to that, but
and I would think even if we had a person, again, you're basically saying you're gonna sit around the bridge, okay? And I don't know that we have that luxury, that we can afford to have a Joe do that. But Joe, you would know.
Yeah, what we did, you know, you bring up, because now that I'm on the police commission, I'm going to bring this up again, that each entity can have their own waymasters. And it might be worth looking at because of the bridge again. Previous, I don't want to say, you know, we get training in and we were going to purchase, I think just get scales, equipment, the truck. And we had, at the time, we had the amount of forfeiture money where I could do that. And it was denied by the higher ups for whatever reason. And this was some years ago. I retired 4 years ago as the police chief. So the bottom line, I think that I can bring this up at the next police commission meeting. And I'm talking about just to see the cost. I'll have them look into it and see what the cost previous to when I looked into it. And this was probably, truthfully, gone 4 years now, probably 8 years ago, because what we looked at was the bridge, and we just wanted to keep it fair and keep it honest. But what we wanted to do was ensure that people weren't taking advantage, because it's all about your safety.
Exactly.
That's what was to make sure everybody on Groseal was safe. And it did run into, even an engineer, like I told these gentlemen, but it did run into bridge issues. And looked into, I got prices, but anyway, I know I'm going a little too far into this, but I'll bring this up for you. And if you like, if you want to talk after the meeting, if you want to just give me, contact you, or I'll tell you what, you know, comes out of it. I like to follow people that
Yeah,
ask.
sure. I'm all for, I'll drive slower, everything else, but I think that needs to be addressed as well.
It will
for
be.
sure.
It will be.
Molly, one of the things that's probably cost of frost laws, and that typically is April 1st.
Right.
And you start looking at $1 a pound is my experience. So if that boulder was 5,000 pounds, that goes into the equation. The problem is when you start time, you don't have that kind of action out there.
I know about the, that, and yeah, you're definitely right about that. But, again, you can't just eyeball it. I don't know what things weigh. But I know I did see some really, really big loads coming over this summer. That's all. Just wanted, you know, something to.
I'm sure it's happening. You're absolutely,
Yeah.
you're 100% correct. I'm sure it's because there is no, I want to say there is no enforcement. I've seen them there now and then leaving the island.
Really?
Now and then, I'm talking about a year's worth. So, you're correct, but I will do that for you.
All right. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Thomas Hill. Using the example of this bridge compared to you bring me a report from 3 mechanics, and then you want me to report what the interpretation is. Everybody's going to write something differently. Wouldn't this make more sense to have a meeting is not with the engineers that report? Wouldn't it make more sense to talk to the people that actually did the inspection?
Excellent point.
It's a good point. I can't say much to it because unfortunately the folks that did the inspection did see the Heather Catella report that came out at 6 p.m. and Wayne County did promise there to do a a meeting, a question and answer meeting with us. So I don't know if they'll follow through, but list that as a possible way to get answers from Wayne County on some of that.
Well, and then again, what he was asking is that the actual engineers, because these are people that are hired. Wayne County is not doing this anymore. You know, from what happened previously, I mean, this even started with us to go to the third parties and the expert engineer, and they continued to do that. They're not backing on that. And that is something that Andy also knew me in my discussions with him. So we'll certainly follow that. I'll just interject here in talking to Wayne County, the ones that Bev's was starting to put in before she is putting in is a regular maintenance schedule. You know, they understand the importance where the predecessors obviously did not for whatever reason. But they are going to have a regular maintenance schedule, plus, you know, all the things that they plan on over and above the maintenance, like the 5 piers. They had the list from the inspection that Chris alluded to, things that needed to be done, these plates that are rusting, etc. That is on their list to do. So it's clear that that they, you know, committing to maintain this right, because remember, if this bridge goes down or if there's something unsafe about it, it's not on us. It's on Wayne County. They're the ones that are liable. They are the ones that are liable. So they don't, please, you'll have your chance to speak, but they understand an unsafe bridge doesn't do them any good at all. It doesn't. What I'm happy to hear, because I've been talking to County for 10 years. The old regime, that they didn't do or say anything. These new guys who are willing to talk, saying, that what they're going to do is heading in the right direction. So, next. Was there a hand? Oh, Kathy? Come on up.
Kathy Walker. Do I need my address?
No,
Okay. Two things. Let's start with the third party thing. Wayne County's picking the third party. Do we have any input to that?
No, we don't.
So, let's be, it's Wayne County. They might know somebody. I mean, do we have anything that this guy might be better? Do we investigate who we get? Or do we just take?
We are not getting anybody. It's Wayne County, and I will say, we've looked at the engineering firms that they're getting, and they're highly rated.
Okay,
But yes,
so you did something.
We don't have any input, but
But you did due diligence.
We were looking. Okay, they're hiring Brennan, and Brennan is one of the tops in the world.
Fine, as long as, due diligence. Okay, the second part is, back in November of, was it 2000, Wayne County performed an underwater inspection of the Even Piers in number 9, and they determined that it was in critical condition. 6 months earlier, the same piers were determined to be in poor condition, so that was a big change. Piers were deemed to be in fair condition. Could you tell me, this combination of poor, critical, fair, how we can address something more quickly, because there could be an accident. I mean, I keep saying about the school, I keep thinking of the school bus with kids going, and seeing them locked in their little thing and dropping water and not getting out. And it just drives me crazy that we don't have control over how bad it's deteriorating, and we don't know why. You know,
No.
one of the
and
gentlemen said,
Chris, I'll let you speak to that if you, but it is, that's why they do the inspections, to see. That's how they found out from this to this, because of inspection.
but just think of it. If we don't do the inspection time, you know, it could be the day after they go in the, and my whole point in this is, what can we do to stimulate Wayne County to be more proactive? Because obviously the bridge is going downhill. You know, they spent all that money, got it up 1 point. What happened? Quite honestly, the engineers are going, no offense, but you know, say it's poor, but would you want your kids or grandkids to go over that bridge every day? I mean, let's be honest, would you?
They do, I mean, the point is, you're saying a lot of good things, okay, first of all.
Yeah, Chris, could you just get near the microphone so we're,
The whole point of the bridge inspection program is to prevent exactly what you, I don't know the history of this bridge up until we were retained to come in and take a look at the data that's been collected by others. I tell you that some of the firms that we've seen the names of, they're reputable people. They're qualified, certified bridge inspectors. Their
right.
job identified problems. They did their job. They identified the job. It's up to the bridge owner. The bridge owner has to.
So we go back to Wayne County.
You have to go back to Wayne County. They own that bridge. It's their
So-
responsibility.
the fact that they've moved their inspections up, staying at the standard.
But here's
They've moved it up.
my last point, and as this lady was saying, you know, everybody's saying it's but, and the moment that damn bridge goes down, and God forbid something happens, all of a sudden there'll be lots of money to fix it. But right now we can't come off the dime. I wish we could, and I wish that you guys are to do it. Go get them.
Would it be easy for you to just stay back there and, okay, thanks.
My name's Ron Janowski. I've been involved with this a number of years ago, and I kind of gave up because there was a lack of communal, what do I want to call it? They wanted to come forward and speak their mind. They always wanted me to do that. 10, 12 years ago, I presented the township an inspection that identified all the underwater piers in very, very poor condition, okay? Who in the township is given the responsibility to communicate with Wayne County? And before you answer that question, Wayne County works for us, just like you work for me. I don't mean to be sarcastic about that.
I know what, Ron, I
But I
understand what you're saying.
hired you or vote, you work for me, representing me, okay? It doesn't seem, in all the years that I've been interested and concerned with this, okay, I couldn't find anybody with the township that was really adamant about communicating with county. I did on a certain level, and I've talked to a number of people, and I've got to go through my notes, that I've been told some real discouraging information. Okay, like 12 years ago, I presented the township, and I'm going to look into this if Wayne County ever received this. I didn't come to the township board meetings to give anybody a hard time. I came to kind of wake up the dead dog, bring it to their attention, and have them carry it down to Wayne County. I personally went down to Wayne County twice myself, to a couple of executives down there, And I got, well, at one time I got blown off, and I was treated really nice. Okay, I'm gonna say that. They work for us. Or we may go to, transfer to Monroe County or something, somebody that will do a little better job. When you falsify reports, means you're 10,000 people, and that's what it is. They 10,000 people. Okay, if that bridge goes down and somebody's got to get to the hospital, okay, we got an airport out here, we can medevac them and and get them there an hour later.
Which takes time.
It all takes more time. I think as a township, we need to be more diligent about dealing with this problem. There was a lot of good suggestions, and why salt a bridge that none of the salt goes through the bridge and onto the superstructure, and that to me makes sense. Let Wayne County employees. I just took a picture last couple of days. 9 trucks on West Road overpass, railroad tracks, and out of the 9 trucks, 7 of them were occupied reading newspaper, and somebody was doing something on the road. Now, if you equate that, if you have business and you equate your daily costs and employee costs and everything else, that's a lot of money. And yet, they don't have any money. I've got videos, pictures. They closed the bridge over here before they even started working on it. I've got videos of it every day, that there were no vehicles, no boats, no nothing on that bridge, and yet we closed down. For what? Were we having a tea party or what? And I can't be more about this, and I'm gonna pull my records. I'm gonna pull what I brought to the township board, okay, and then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna get a copy of that township meeting. Then I'm gonna find out who exactly or had the responsibility of discussing it with Wayne County. Wayne County really here. Wayne County, we need Wayne County to answer these questions. Of course, we fired.
Well, I will tell you this, and you would have brought that before I was on the board.
Probably, yes.
Because
Yes.
I know since I've been on the board, I haven't seen you.
You have? Well, I'm back.
Yeah. But Ron, in being on the DPS as the late in dealing with Wayne County, it pretty much didn't go past at a township level. Let's talk to Wayne County. Nope, Wayne County doesn't want to talk to us. Boom, let it go. When I
I'm for hire.
Right after I got elected, and the bridge was shut down, one of the things I did was call Wayne County and say, we have to have a meeting every week on this bridge back up. And to this new group's credit, they didn't bat an eye. They didn't give me any flack on that. They right off the right from the start. Back you're talking about was the old regime, and literally they would not talk to us, and it was very frustrating. But we did not carry it any farther than that. Oops, they hit us. We're done. And we don't. Luckily, we don't have that type of relationship now. They will not only answer calls, they will have called me to let me know information. So are different now, and we are in communication with them. We want to keep it.
Well, that's.
I have, this list I'm making tonight. I will have them calling Andy Candrivas, who's the head now, in going through these things with them.
Andy Candrivas?
Candrivas. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, and you're right. We have to keep them because we are a small cog in the Wayne County wheel. And unless we stay on it, we're going to fall by the wayside.
Andy, I don't want to hear that because I get around, okay? I'm real good with a camera, and I've got pictures, videos, and of Wayne County. And like I said, when you do your accounting, the way business people do their accounting, and especially government, okay, I don't want to hear they haven't got any money, okay? And I can be on the news and exposing this every day of the week, okay? Depending on what county I'm in. And it's just really disheartening to make a point, a strong point, that bridge, okay, and thank God for the other backup bridge that we have, the older, and probably got half worn out doing all this, and everybody complained that, you know, somebody was making a lot of money on that. It probably cost them a lot to fix that bridge than was ever made, okay? I'm going to say that. But 10,000 plus people, their lives depend on that. And we better get serious. I made a comment or a request or a suggestion time that maybe we quit swinging that bridge so many times during the day. There's a regulation to doing it. You know, I forgot what it was, every hour or, you know.
And that's by federal law. That's not by.
And you know what? The federal government works for us too. Did you ever hear that? You used. Okay.
I worked for you all my life.
Okay. All right. Okay. And if it's to prolong the life of a dangerous bridge, okay, because that puts a lot of stress on those underwaters, okay, when that bridge swings and it's teetering on that. And if that goes bad, and I've got some experience with that's where a lot of these bridges will go down when you swing that bridge. How about let's reduce the number of, like reducing the speed, let's reduce the number of openings. Those number of people, and people mad, and I don't really care, they can call me, okay, between one bridge and the other that, well, I got to get my sailboat out, and I got to get it out anytime I want. Well, we're going to restrict you. We're going to restrict you for the sake of how many houses are going to be between those two bridges. 40, okay, against 10,000 people? Maybe yeah, I know it's a federal regulation and all that. Well, the coal plant's closing. So many freighters that got to come through there. They could have come in through the south anyway. Okay, that was a long time. Everybody's got an excuse why we can't do this and this and this and this and this. Well, let's quit paying Wayne County. Let's go to Monroe County and see what Monroe County or someone else gonna do with this.
Make our own county.
I don't know. Can we?
Yeah,
Can we do that?
None of what you said is as easy as that. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. Doesn't mean it shouldn't be looked at. But it's
Making suggestions. Yeah. I'm not here to give anybody a hard time.
We when the bridge was down, there was a with the Corps and with Coast Guard actually limit the swings on the toll bridge.
Okay. Well, you mean they didn't want it?
No, because they're coming from a completely angle. Their thing is for the water traffic. They're about the automobile traffic.
Personal watercraft?
Yes, personal watercraft is ahead of the automobile as to the people who look at the waterways. And it was a battle to get them to, and they didn't give a whole lot, I recall, but during certain hours allowed for less closure. And that was could be gotten.
Well, then we need
so I mean, it's
need a spokesperson to that.
Well, you need to change, and all they're doing is enforce. They don't have the right to change that. You're talking about now getting the federal government to change their law. It's all I'm saying. It's very not that it shouldn't be done or looked into.
Sir, I understand that, but you know what? If we don't speak our mind and give reason to speak those words, then nobody's paying attention.
Just as an added thing to show you the complexity, we had no standing to speak on them. It had to be the bridge company that had to speak on them because it was the bridge.
But the bridge company works for us.
No, I'm talking the toll bridge in the example.
That's a
And it would be the same here. We wouldn't have standing. It'd have to be Wayne County. And so all we can do is hit Wayne County and say, you gotta do this. And that's part of the complexity. We don't have any link, but we need to be that thorn in their side. And luckily, we don't have to be a thorn. We can talk to them. So
Well-
we are doing that.
be the right people to be your spokesperson. And if no one's got it in their heart to do that, well, we need to find somebody. You got to have an advocate. It's just like getting a lawyer.
I'll tell you that Derek and I talk to them on a regular basis, not like every Monday or anything, but on a regular basis. I'll bet you every couple of weeks we are talking to them about what they're going to do, talking to them about what we're going to. Tomorrow or Wednesday, I will be calling Andrevis to talk about everything I hear here.
You know, getting back to a little more personal experience, if a police officer turns his back on a serious situation and somebody gets hurt, okay, they go to prison. Okay, Wayne County doesn't seem to go by those rules, and neither does any part of our government that wants to turn their back on any serious situations. If they can get away with it, then they walk away and.
And that's why you have to stay on them. It's why you exactly
point.
right. Yeah, they have that. So
if there's anything I can do to help, you know how to get a hold of me.
Ron, you're just a little too meek.
I'm a little too meek? No, I'm
being facetious.
I'm a nice guy. I'm a nice guy, but I get fed up with things. Yep. And you know what? I did zip my mouth after I had my heart surgery, and no one seemed to care. Everybody grabs and says, "Hey, where you been? We need an advocate over here." And I says, "Well, you go to the meeting." "Oh, no, I can't do that. There's a problem there. There's a problem, and you know what? I don't care." Fall in.
You're doing it. You know there's a problem, and you want it addressed.
That's the only reason why, that I was what I was. And it's not to give anybody a hard time up here. There's been some very good points, and these gentlemen here, gave a good perspective on it. I think we need to have Wayne County here. I think we need to have Wayne County here and ask them questions. Because it's unfair to really ask, this organization to comment on something that Wayne County should really, and again, they hired the people to do the inspections, their reports. I've got reports. I'm going to pull out that report, and I'm going to refresh my memory on the times and what exactly was identified in there, and I'll bring attention. And
I'd be interested in that. I assume you gave the report to the
yes, I did
the
at
board
a
meeting,
meeting,
and
yes.
then it was up to them to do
I
something.
believe I gave the board members a copy of it.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that too, Ron. And I do want to thank you. A resident noticing a problem and then diligently pursuing it is, I guess, kind of what this whole operation here is all about.
Some people used to call me names, and you know how that goes, and I really don't care. I got enough true friends that they know what I'm talking, and I've got a policy that I'm talking, I'll zip my mouth and tell me where I'm wrong. I don't think there's anybody in this room telling me that I'm off base here. There's some things we could really be proactive in trying to change a little bit, and one needs to be held responsible. I can forward you some waste that goes on with Wayne County all day long.
I think we all drive by it. I mean, I've driven by the same thing in Oconee and everywhere, what we don't know is there are 5 trucks out there and only seems to be 2 trucks working. It can very well be that for the whole day, that whole crew, the crew that goes around, this job only takes 2 trucks to do, but the job takes 5. So there's, you have to make sure you do your research.
Well, then
Just go off of-
supervisor for Wayne County
butt.
would figure out something to do with those 5 trucks. I thought I caught a salt truck out here. It turned out I was wrong, and I was wrong, but I've seen them salting roads at 50 degrees out, because it might,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
So, anyway, thanks for the time.
Hey, Ron, good.
Something I can do,
Yep.
get a hold of me. Thank you very much.
Next. Anybody else? Sir.
Bob Z. I'd like to thank the board for doing this. Money well spent. We got more tonight than we've gotten in the last 3 years. This was good. I'd like to thank the public showing their concern and their support. We need more of this. I'd also thank Channel 7, Heather Cotillo and her team, and the young lady, Alex Ozagian, I believe. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Appreciate your support in helping getting our voice heard. Appreciate it. Thank you for these two fellows here tonight, their transparency, and their presentation. And with that said, we all know that the bridge is in dire need of repair. The issues that the people want to know what the plan for the bridge is so that they can prepare and plan the future as it pertains to the health, safety, and welfare of their families. That's why this is so important. And we have not been able to get this. Tonight has been a good start. Engines pride themselves on presenting themselves with figures, not opinion. Up until now, we've had opinion. So we thank you for coming. My question is 2 parts. From an engineering standpoint, okay? Before I go into that, I would also like to comment on the by Mr. Bletcher and what we might be able to do to help promote some sort of prevention on keeping this bridge going. Speed, the salt is a factor, and gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong, you've looked at this bridge item underneath. The lateral structures that you're speaking of, they are L-shaped ledges. The salt falls on those ledges. It sets there, there's nowhere to go, and with the climate, the deterioration, the rust, are part of what's taken that lateral structure, I believe. Am I correct? Thank you. All right, a long-term corrective action plan. If we had some sort of outlook here as far as people living on Grosse, a long-term and the short-term corrective action plan for this bridge. The long-term for the bridge involves maybe total replacement. It does. May I ask, when do you feel that replacement place? Do you really feel that this bridge can go another 30 years based on your analysis? That's a fair question,
Well,
I believe.
careful with that. We did not analyze the bridge. I just was gonna just say, we analyzed the bridge. We looked at data.
You analyzed the report.
Yeah, the information that was provided to us to look at.
Okay.
And the question, when would you?
If we were looking at a long-term plan before short-term, that would possibly be a new bridge,
I would say,
and more than probable after 30 years,
holds the bridge?
almost 100 years old.
Yeah.
So that are over 100.
A long-term conservative plan.
And even the new parts are in 2030 will be 100. So,
So, I mean, a long-term for replacement is a good one. The type and size, and there's functional obsolescence, there's structural inadequacies, there's a lot of things going on there. There's a lot of things you could do sure to rehabilitate, focus on those areas that the inspectors pointed out, would extend the life of the bridge. But I mean, you know, you gotta look at a lot of different, cost is a big one. I mean, it's probably upwards of over $100 million to replace a bridge like this. So it's not a small undertaking, but at the same time, look what it's servicing and what's the future hold, what's the future plans for Groseal. So there's a lot of different questions. That would
And if I might just interject, one of the inspections that was done in September was the scoping for the purpose of determining short, mid-term, long-term. Had nothing to do with fixing the bridge and looking at the bridge structure to fix it today. It was planning in the short term, mid-term, and long. And replacing the bridge, very complex issue. Do you put it where this old bridge is? You're not going to get it. Yeah, it's not going to be a swing bridge, number one. No swing bridges anymore. So it's going to either be a drawbridge or a what's the word? You know, one or the other. Try funding. You're not going to get funding today to build a bridge 25 years from now. That's going to come after you've designed and a lot of things happen to it. But that was the purpose of that report, that inspection, just for the long-term planning on it. So you're doing that. That report isn't ready yet, as because I check it too. No, it's not. Wayne County hasn't seen it. And then they also are doing their regular inspections. They're underwater. And it's for the, what do we have to do to repair?
This is exactly what we're talking about. All of these factors. This is why it is called LAN plan. That is what it is. That's why we're at. What would the long-term plan possibly be? And a new bridge could be in 30 years for a long-term plan. We agree?
It's very possible.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Short-term plan. Could you identify and prioritize in your analysis? Say just the top 1, 2, or 3 repairs area. So we can put a stake in the ground and see where our short-term plan would start. You've already identified the lateral structure. If you are going to fund and prioritize actions that need to take place in a short term, what would your first one be? The lateral?
That's a secondary member.
Yeah, it's not a primary member. So we had provided a list of work recommendations. They supported what was in the inspection reports. I think we had a couple other ones that we had provided that. I don't remember.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
You get
But
the
we would focus on primers members that were, you know, critical to the support of the structure. Lateral is important, but it's secondary. So
Okay. So superstructure would be your action.
superstructure repairs, basically, yeah. I don't think these were in any order of importance. We said approach span girders, take a look at those. Lateral bracing was mentioned. I mean, these are all recommendations for repair for a more or less term rehabilitation
Are those
plan.
your recommendations?
These were our recommendations, correct,
Those are recommendations that you guys derived from the report.
from the report.
That's
That's right.
exactly what I'm asking.
So
I
when they
would
do
have
their
copied that, yeah.
when they do their inspections, they list recommendations
Good.
for repairs. They extrapolated out those items and summarized them. So that's what that is.
Pretty standard procedure for any inspection that's done, yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And
Oh.
Mr. Manager, I could possibly get a copy.
Yes, that's not a
Thank you
problem.
very much. What would you estimate the duration allocation of time for these actions to start taking place in order to fall in compliance with a
As soon as
short-term plan.
As soon as funding is available.
As the money is available.
And, Bob, if I may add, in talking to Wayne County, those are on a list to do in the future. They're understanding a nice way to avoid things, right? We don't have the funding. We don't have funding. But luckily, I believe, again, this new group that is in Wayne County understand that although money might not be right here and you might have to dig for, it's well worth digging for and correcting the problem, because that isn't staying put. That problem today is going to be worse. They seem to understand that. And Wayne County is aware of that now, and that they are looking at that have to, for instance, the yearly maintenance that's ever there is going to be there now, because it's certain to maintain. So you don't have the complete rebuild or whatever that you have to do, because that's exactly all this leads. If you ignore your maintenance, you're ending up rebuild.
What the engineers have said, time is of essence here. We have deterioration. We have deterioration on the structure. That's why I'm asking these questions. Hope Kyle has said he caught the 6 o'clock report with Heather Cotillo. And Wayne volunteered to also give us a presentation similar to this one. I hope all in line to be fairly soon, and I'm sure a lot of people in this community would be looking to it. So if we could please follow up on that, that would be appreciated. It's on the list. Okay. Thank you. And thank you again, gentlemen.
Flavin Brazil. I'd like to read some of the information that was presented in the report. It's on the record, and I'll start. It says on page 14 of your report, gentlemen, you stated Piers 1, 3, 5, 7, 11 were rated a 4, poor condition because of the exposure of the vertical face. All the piers were noted to have spalling, delamination, scaling, and horizontal cracks. The observed cracking, spalling, and delamination on the surface of the plain concrete piers is of concern. So that's what you. On page 15 of your report, the following is stated: November 23rd of 2021, safety inspectors reported rated superstructure a 4, poor condition. The approach span main girders have heavy scale holes through the web plates. The stringers had area rust and section loss, and the lateral wind bracing has rust. The connection plates and several lateral members are broken. Truss members level of the roadway have heavy corrosion, heavy steel deterioration on the main members will require ongoing repair. Strengthen routine bridge maintenance. When officials publicly stated that the repairs performed during the closure period would extend the life of the Parkway Bridge by 20 to 30 years. That was said recently. Do you find it to be surprised Parkway Bridge, I'm asking this question, was shut down for 18 months to enable repairs, and this significant amount of deterioration was apparently lost? And secondly, do you believe it is possible for the bridge to remain operational for another 20 to 30 years with substructure, superstructure rated in poor condition that needs this amount of repair? And I know you've touched on a couple of these. Would you mind just read what you said?
Yeah,
please.
Kevin, can I just want is your question asking if they do nothing more, will this, if they don't do any more repairs, they just let it go, is it going to last 20, 25 years?
I think they
Is
answered
that what your question is, or?
I think they answered the question before. What I'm asking is, with the information that's in the report, do you find it surprising that it took 18 months to do the repairs and that they left so much undone?
Yeah, what I was gonna say was, thank you.
Please.
So I know the background of, the project that they undertook over the time. It's pretty complex what they did. But I would suspect because of the price tag of the repair, always goes back to the money. My guess is they found what they felt was a primary concern, which was encapsulating the pier and grouting and then the repairs with the superstructure to follow. You generally don't see a level of repairs to a large bridge though. So in order of magnitudes, maybe it's correct, but
Is it surprising to you that they didn't address those issues?
well, again, they probably just didn't have the money to do the rest of it, as my guess.
The other
You know,
thing the county said was that they thought the work that was recently would give us another 20 to 30 years of, that seems to me to be.
That's a question.
Well, they did a major repair many years ago. They told us it would last 20 to 30 years. And now, 14, 15, 17 years later, we're doing huge repairs again.
Mm-hmm.
So is that just thinking that it would last that long, or are we going to be in, everybody in the community is saying in 2024, the rumor is in 2020 that it'll have to be closed down again to do more majors.
Mhm.
Is that what you see in the future?
It's quite you can't just do there and expect it to last. In our opinion, it's a process.
Ongoing
Yeah,
repairs.
I think Bob mentioned long-term planning, short-term, medium-term. If you think about it, you're constantly for the long term. Eventually, you're going to replace any structure. But in the time leading up to that, you're doing short-term, medium-term projects to lengthen the amount of time, or that time at which you need to actually get to the point where you're replacing the structure. 24 to, I don't know how they came up with those numbers. Again, we don't know enough about it to understand it.
What was said at the time was, and it may have been the executive, Warren Evans, the county executive, that this would last 20 to 30 years. And that's what you heard? But I'm not to put you on the spot, but my point is, that seems realistic, does it? Without
Politicians saying it would last 30 years.
And believe me, I don't think you're going to get anybody, politician, engineer, anybody to give telling you 20 years, 30 years, 15 years. Too many variables. And the point of asking for clarification was, I would sit here, I would think everybody in this room would say, if somebody tells me it's going to last 25 years, but you're not doing a darn thing on it here to there, it's not. If you're doing the maintenance and doing the repairs, that's how you're getting that type of life.
So let me also ask this question this way. I think it was the executive, county executive, Mr. Evans, Warren Evans, that was ribbon cutting. Yes. And I know you were there also. When was the last time that you had a meeting with Mr. Evans as the for our township? When was the last time you sat down with him and pushed him and lobbied for more funding to do this?
I didn't. I
Have you
haven't.
ever done
I
that?
have, because he's not the guy to go to. He is not the guy to go to. He's gonna send me to the guy that I'm talking to. It was Bev, now it's Andy. They're the ones that do that.
I've talked to other people in other communities that are in a similar position to you that have said to me that they would, as the executive or they would go and talk with Mr. Warren Evans and lobby him for money and make him aware of how important it is.
And that is a possibility if you're not getting anywhere with the people that actually hold the money and have the say in where their money's going. The guys are telling me that they're going to use their money to work on our bridge. I don't see a reason to try and trump them when they've told me what we know.
And Mr. Supervisor, if I may add, also the commission has a hand in allocating funding and authorizing contracts for work. We're in pretty constant communication
Good point.
with her.
Joe Palmera has been I've been in constant contact with
So,
him too.
When the contract came up for their work, when the contract came up for the above water work, we worked closely with our committee to make sure that there weren't any hiccups when it went to the commission and things got passed without any problem. So depending upon the situation and what you're with, depends upon who you speak with, whether it's from the administrative standpoint, Ken Rivas, or from a commission standpoint for contract awards, it'll be Joe. Or you might potentially talk to the executive, but there's different areas that you talk to depending upon.
And I understand
So
that. What I'm saying though is,
Bob.
what I'm saying is, from a lobbying point of view for our township, I would hope the supervisor would talk to the main man, so to speak, which is Warren Evans. The other thing is, in the 2 years that this process has been going on, I think you, in your second year as supervisor? Okay.
Actually, I guess we're in our third.
Well, in the years that you have been the supervisor, there seems to be a lack of communication. We're not getting information from the county that is passed on to us, or we're not receiving information from you on what's.
Well, we pass on everything that isn't. If there's speculation or there's things to doubt, we're not going to pass that on, only because what tends to happen is you hear X and you think it's insane, and when it turns out to be Y, when it's finalized, you go, whoa, wait a minute, this. And to not have to go back and try and explain or argue with you that wasn't, that is where they were going. They had to switch. It ends up, when it gets to this is what they're going to do. That's what we know.
So you leave the community. You leave the community with no information for.
Well, there's no information to give. Speculation is not information.
If you put information, we have nothing to offer you, we have nothing to tell you, we're in the process. You had weekly meetings and we've had very little information. I think that there was a lack of information coming out to the community.
I think we put something out every week. We put something out every week.
And how come there wasn't an ongoing, it's like this meeting tonight. This meeting to not advertised terribly well as far as.
I think advertise the best we can advertise. I don't know, other than going and knocking on doors, and there's going to be a meeting. We have it on our website. We talked about it at our meetings. That's the way we have it.
You had it on the township website. Was on the Facebook website.
I think it was.
It wasn't.
I don't know, because
I wish you would know. I think there needs to be more communication with the community. With that in mind, I suggest that we have an ad hoc bridge committee that is made up of individuals on the island who will come with us, the taxpayers, and tell what's actually happening. So I don't think that there was enough community in the last 3 years of
And that's your opinion, that's fine. Thank you. Greg. Thank you, Channel 7.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Greg,
Glad
as
to be here
usual,
tonight.
Greg, a round of applause when you
All
come
right.
to the.
Greg Kermes, first of all, I want to start off thanking the board for having this meeting tonight. Very valuable. And there were some great comments by questions, all the members of the board. And that's the kind of thing that I think, probably, as others have said, done long ago.
Greg, I'm gonna walk out for a minute. You can keep going. I just-
Okay, no problem. I'm not going to address questions to you anyways. You got the praise. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. But, looking at how we got here tonight, I think is important. And when you look back to where we, in the early 2000s, in the mid 2000s, and there was a bit of discussion about concerns on the Parkway Bridge, and there were in fact inspections that were available in the community and to the board, and didn't have much follow-up at that time. And we didn't have this kind of tonight to get into the details of what those inspection reports said. And I think it's extremely valuable that we do have this kind of and dig into the details of this, because we all know it's Wayne County's bridge, but the consequences of it not being maintained well are mostly felt by the members of this community and the businesses, and so we really be proactive. And thinking about the history of this, when we got to the 2007 closure period, where there was closure to the county bridge, there was quite a bit of discussion at that time about the support piers. And yet the county didn't touch the support piers. There was no work time. And yet inspections in 2007 and 2003 had identified pretty subtle deterioration. And yet we didn't do anything about that. We didn't do anything about it. And the township at the time really didn't say much about it. The value of having a bridge engineer to provide the board and the professional staff of the township with expert advice is invaluable. That's tremendous. We're not going to be in that position again when we go into a situation where this is looking at what do they do on the bridge, and the township has no opinion. You have an opinion. You have informed experts that have looked at the report, given you advice on what the priorities should be, what kind of projects they should be pursuing. I think this was an extremely valuable investment that the township board community, and I again, thank you for that. And also, Jen, of course, left tonight, but had it not been for Heather Catallo and her investigative team looking at the inspection reports, not just for Grosse Ile, across the county, and uncovering outright alleged of falsification of records and skipping of inspections, we wouldn't have that information. Again, that's part of the reason where I know the board was sensitive to that and thought a valuable exercise to have an independent expert come in here and take those reports. And it was actually reassuring to hear from Engineer Manick and Smith tonight that they do believe that the current inspections are actually done and do accurately reflect the best standards for inspections. So with that, I'd like to get to a specific question, the report. Earlier this year, maximum vehicle weight limit for the Parkway Bridge was increased 2 tons. This is very close to the 82-ton maximum vehicle limit enforced when the Parkway Bridge support piers were in good condition or how the span was for many years before the recent weight were implemented in 2017. It's my understanding 82 tons is the maximum vehicle weight limit for trucks in Michigan Class A roads, and the Parkway Bridge is rated as a Class A road. Do you believe it is appropriate for the maximum vehicle weight limit to essentially be the same, with half the support piers rated in poor condition as when they were rated in good condition, which was being used normally in the past? And in that regard, do the support rated in poor condition generally have the same capacity for carrying loads as support piers rated in good condition? That's
Thank you for the question. The bridge does have a posting on it. Typically, the way that posting is obtained is
Cliff, if you can
they take the superstructure, all the green material, and using computer programs, and run 28 mission legal vehicles across and see which ones flag it. On this particular bridge, the critical member is it's floor beam 7 on the movable span. It's got a connection or a rusty burr that is allows the whole bridge to be posted for load. The fixed spans apparently don't have a problem. The bridge is not rated for the substructure. Okay, the substructure is an element that's rated just the steel superstructure, the swing span. The inspection of the substructure determines whether it's solid. If you see things falling in the river, cracks in the critical areas under the bearing, you're going to say fix it or do something. But there's no current analysis that's done on the substructure to say it can only take this much vehicle. It's only done on the green superstructure part. And so yeah, that bridge is load rated. That's how it was load rated. That's why the sign has a posting on it. It's based on a numerical of the superstructure only.
okay. So just as a follow-up on that, is that the case with all bridges where the load rating is dependent on structure as opposed to the substructure? Okay, so that doesn't have any bearing on the amount of weight that can safely be carried on the bridge, the condition of the support piers?
Inspectors saw deterioration on the exposed concrete in the concrete under the water, but caught their attention is this is going to be a load problem.
Okay, well, it's good to know we're basically taking the load rating down, as I understand, by about 3%, but 50% of the piers are now in poor condition.
Yeah.
And yet we have the same load rating on the bridge when the bridge was in good condition or, prior to any implementation restriction.
Thing is that as a little bit myopic, it only looks at the superstructure.
Gotcha. All right, a couple other questions here. Reports for the underwater inspection of the support piers conducted in June of 2020 and November of 2020 recommended repair work on the structures above the water line. Wayne County's contractor wrote the following in the June 20 underwater inspection, quote, patch spalls, delamination, and scale areas in piers above and below water surface on all piers. Epoxy inject vertical cracks on all counters. Install scour countermeasures at piers such as prep, unquote. In fact, the underwater inspection performed in November of 21 similarly recommended the performing of, quote, substructure repair, concrete patching, epoxy injection cracks on piers 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 11, quote. Despite the recommendations in these inspection reports, your report indicates that none of this work was performed. What is your opinion about of these recommended repairs? Could the failure to perform these repairs negatively affect the structural integrity and safety of the bridge at some point?
I think it will. I think it has. The whole reason that it wasn't raised from, was it a 4 to say 6 or 7, higher end of fair or good, well, they believe it's still, the inspector felt it was a significant issue, and it just when you get the freeze-thaw action with the water infiltration and starts to split the further and further, and to the point where you get large chunks falling off exposed rainfall, et cetera. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the reason they didn't raise the rating any higher than they did.
And was that in their list of to-do?
Verbatim out of the inspection report.
Yeah, I believe that was on their.
Okay. Enough. Finally, on page 14 of your report, the following is stated: the November 23rd, 2021 bridge inspection or safety inspection report was performed after substructure and superstructure repairs were completed, but prior to the opening the bridge to track number 3, 2021, the BSIR indicated that the bridge dips at even numbered piers. This vertical alignment problem should be corrected, unquote. So that's from your report. In your opinion, what is causing the vertical alignment problem, and what concern, and how could it be corrected?
Most likely.
I'm making conjecture a little bit, but I believe that for piers, it's 2, 4, and 6. They're the original 1873 piers on timber cribbing.
Right.
Construction method was to install, I'm not 100%, put cribbing down and then fill inside the cribbing drill. And I'm not sure if they're able to cofferdam the whole thing and get in and clean it out to solid limestone. They may have dumped things into that stuff and built on top of. The core samples I took in 1958 on piers 9, 10, and 11, at that time, that there was blue clay and there were cinders down there. And as an issue, they sheeted 8, 9, and 10 and anchored it into the limestone and fixed those ones. That worked, as far as I know, on 2, 4, and 6. So those piers are sitting there on the same material without going into the rock. My conjecture is that's possibly why it moved down. The material is exfiltrated, and that was caught in 1920. They sheeted those piers, injected with grout, and that movement should stop. Nevertheless, it does propose an alignment issue on the approach. Possibility of repairing it would be to jack the girders up and shim them underneath the bearings to get that. If it's simply a issue to raise it up and get that out. It may be more complicated than that, but that's a suggestion. I was kind of thinking that would be nice to have that done, 18-month shutdown, but it wasn't. I was like, okay.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, just along that line, I know they were continually monitoring that to look to see if the continuous deterioration.
Right.
And it came out that it had stopped. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They're aware of that dip. Anyone else? We're even losing Barb. Yes, ma'am.
Catherine Murphy. So, of all the things we heard tonight about what can be done, seeing the speed, not sure how you're going to do this because speed on Grosse Ile is out of control. I don't anybody stop, but I live on Dallas and I hear the cars on Meridian. It's pretty much like 8 Mile or something. It's unbelievable. But I don't know how they did it, but on that pay bridge for the 8 months we were on it, I never saw tandem trucks that were loaded to the brim like you allude. We've only been here since 2011, but it started port. And I would tell my husband every day, how can they allow those tandem trucks loaded to the brim with pieces of concrete from the, first of all, to be doing at least 45 on Meridian, but to be and forth across the bridge. I don't know, you know, they couldn't use it, there's no other way, whatever. But if the bridge was already, you know, said it was in poor condition, that certainly didn't add to it. I don't know if there's a way to, you got cameras on the to know ahead of time or see the people speeding, the fish trucks, and then all the work that was done at that,
At the air.
yeah, at the airport on those storage facilities, the same thing. I mean, just big down the road and with huge limits to the brim, but two-part truck, which you talked about weights. I have no knowledge those could weigh.
And I think the first thing would be getting a posted speed limit like 20 was talked about. That's, I mean,
Now it's
posting it.
posted at 30 and
post-
35 and
I mean,
nobody.
Toll Bridge, they have that electronic that tells you how you're entering that bridge, and some people slow down, people don't, and it's the same thing there. I mean, starting is the speed limit, I think, but then we also have, you know, we don't have the ability to have an officer that on
Right.
Parkway by the bridge.
Yeah.
And so it's like any other speed, you get caught when that officer is around.
So cameras on the bridge look at your license plate?
Cameras, there's cameras. We also put up, this was some years, probably 5 years ago, we put up cameras to see the traffic, and we put up the license plate recognition system, which,
Yeah,
yes,
so-
you're correct. We can see the plate only in the back of the vehicle, see anything else, though. It doesn't pick up speed, it doesn't pick up, actually, it doesn't even pick up the aisle of the truck, if you will. It only picks up the back where the license plate is. In Michigan, we don't have front, so we don't get the picture of the front because we don't need front license plates in Michigan. It picks up the back for that. So that has to be done. What you're talking about, I'm going to add this next police commission meeting. There's got to be more special attention for radar cars.
Yeah, speed cameras aren't legal in Michigan.
No, not in Michigan.
How were they do that on the
The free bridge,
toll bridge?
the toll bridge is a little bit, basically, it's a manned bridge, so actually, when they bring a vehicle over, they have to have load ticket, the weight of that truck.
I don't even think you could have a double truck.
Right, have different load limits, and they have the ability to regulate whatever load limits that they want, whether
But I mean,
it's
even
rated
the
or not.
traffic, I never saw people speeding, whether the bridge was empty,
And then-
speed.
Yeah, and any vehicle that was at the limit or weight, they would escort across. So they would control the weight, the speed vehicles as well, and keep them to a minimum. So they're obviously a little bit different of a bridge in that one's pretty much manned, this one is not.
They did use an escort vehicle, but there's something called, it's called psychological respect for what's around there. And it's true.
Oh,
It's a
I
syndrome.
don't doubt that they had
And
it.
because they slow the traffic down on the free bridge, the toll bridge, and they do have, Mr. Smoke purchase, they have the speed limit monitors that we purchased for around the island. They're portable, if you will, and he fixed to the bridge, but there's a psychological advantage to having those, knowing what you're doing, and it kind of triggers you. Plus what Derek said, they have the escorts still. You can't bring a large, now because they cut it down.
His tonnage is way down.
Yeah, they cut it down anyway after this bridge.
But I mean, I think it's the whole presence of that bridge. Look at the sign, how old it is, and it's old, and yet I always at the condition of it. And obviously, they're doing maintenance.
He does do an amazing job keeping it up.
Yeah, and
The sign
that's what
that's
you
like,
get.
this
But
bridge is 50 years old and is
Yeah.
in dubious
Yeah.
condition. Yeah.
Respect its
You know,
It's
right.
ironic that, it's okay for a guy to, I'm not going to tandems because it's unbelievable that a guy can carry that much weightage at 45 and, kids on a school bus are at peril. That whole concept.
Well, I
It's
will,
just
I will say this, that if they do get stopped and they do get weighed, it is not an insignificant penalty. They're concerned, and again, what looks to us is it's got to be overweight. But speed, just like, on the toll bridge, even though that flashing, I guarantee not everybody's going 25 over that bridge. But those are the types of things that at least some people will. More you probably have now.
And if we could look at the salt events.
The salt,
Under our control for whatever the option.
well, it's not under our, but it certainly will be talked about with them. No.
With that speed. 'Cause
Yeah,
I-
speed is a,
It's pitiful when you live on an island and you have to worry about your car, speed.
I can't see that. And if no more, I would just simply thank you very much for coming. Chris and Cliff, nice job. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate the people up. I believe Bob said it, someone said it, we need more resident participation. Very nice to see all of you. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.